Today you will learn how to make the cutest mini pumpkin pies. Check this out. Hey everybody, it's Natasha of NatashasKitchen.com. I'm excited today because we're making mini pumpkin pies. These are so easy to make, they're quick to bake. You don't have to pre-bake the crust, and they taste just like classic pumpkin pie. I'm hungry for Tbsp. We're just gonna do this, okay? Hey, by the way, if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to our channel if you love recipes that work. All right, starting with the crust, there are some options here. You can either use store-bought crust, all right? So you'll need 2 9-inch pie crust rolls to make 12 mini pumpkin pies, or 1 disc of homemade pie dough. And this is like 100 times better, and it takes like 10 minutes to make. We have a video on how to make this, so you have no excuse. Okay? Buttery, flaky goodness. Do this one, okay? That's what we're gonna do. Start by rolling it out to 1/8 inch thick. Also, make sure to preheat your oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. Generously dust your work surface with flour to keep the dough from sticking. I'm also gonna dust a little bit of flour over the pie dough so it doesn't stick to my rolling pin. And I love using this French rolling pin for pretty much everything. They're very inexpensive, and I will link to the one I'm using in the recipe notes. Next, you'll need to cut out 12 3.5-inch circles. You can either use a cookie press or the lid from a canning jar. And if you don't quite get 12 rings, don't worry, you can re-roll the scraps to get a couple more. Our homemade pie dough is really easy to make and so easy to work with. If you haven't tried it already, I will link to it in the notes. This is our go-to pie dough for everything from apple pie to blueberry pie and of course pumpkin pie. All right, we have exactly 12 dough rounds. Now you'll need a 12-count muffin tin. Grease that lightly with cooking spray. I love to grease my baking pans over the door of my dishwasher, and this way I don't have to clean up any mess. It also helps to use a non-stick cupcake pan like this one. That way they're easier to remove when they're done baking. Place the dough rounds inside of each cup, molding the dough to the sides of the muffin cups. You want to make sure the dough is sitting snugly in the pan so that the pumpkin pie filling doesn't sneak under the crust. The pumpkin pie filling is even easier to make, and it's based on our popular classic pumpkin pie. You'll need a 15-ounce can of pumpkin puree, and just like with our pie recipe, I highly recommend using Libby's brand for the best flavor and texture. Next, add 1 whole egg plus 1 egg yolk. You can keep the white to make yourself an omelet. Then add 1/2 cup of packed light brown sugar, and you know it's packed when it holds its shape when you take it out of the measuring cup. I like to squeeze that into the mixture, that way it'll blend in more easily. Then add 1/4 cup of granulated sugar, 1 teaspoon pumpkin pie spice, 1/2 teaspoon of ground cinnamon, 1/4 teaspoon of salt, and 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract. And of course, we're using our homemade vanilla. I will link to this in the recipe notes. Whisk those together until the mixture is well combined. Then we're gonna gradually add in 3/4 cup or 6 ounces of evaporated milk. Slowly add that in while you're whisking, then stir until everything is really well blended and combined. Now to fill the muffin tin, I like to use a trigger release ice cream scoop. I use this for a ton of recipes and I will link to it in the notes, of course. It helps me to portion quickly and evenly. You'll need 1 level scoop for each muffin cup. Add it almost to the top of the pie dough. If you cut your dough to 3.5-inch circles and pressed it into the muffin tin, you should have just enough batter to fill 12 muffin cups. Now bake in the center of a preheated oven at 350 degrees Fahrenheit for about 30 to 40 minutes. I found that if you use a homemade crust, it takes about 40 minutes, where a store-bought thinner crust will take about 30 minutes to bake. The mini pies are done when the tops of the crusts are starting to turn golden brown. You want to let them cool in the pan for about 10 minutes, then transfer them to a wire rack to cool completely. To help pop those little pies out of the muffin tin, it helps if you run a small knife or a cake release tool around the edges of the little pies, and they should pop right out. You want to let those cool completely to room temperature on a wire rack. This will give them a chance to set, and you can add whipped cream without it melting. You can pipe a store-bought whipped cream over the tops if you want a shortcut, but I love to make my own whipped cream because it's so simple. Add 1 cup of very cold, heavy whipping cream to a large mixing bowl, then beat that over medium-high speed for 1 minute until soft peaks form. Next, add 3 tablespoons of granulated sugar and half a teaspoon of vanilla extract. Then continue beating for another 2 minutes or until the cream reaches a pipeable consistency. Just make sure you don't overbeat the cream or it will turn buttery. If that happens, you can fix it by gently beating in a little more heavy cream. Transfer the whipped cream to a piping bag fitted with a large open star tip. This is probably my favorite and most used tip for all of my cakes, cupcakes, and pies. Now that our pumpkin pies have cooled completely to room temperature, we're ready to pipe on the frosting. I like adding big, generous puffs of cream to each one. It makes them look so impressive. All right, and then to bedazzle them even further, right before serving, I like to put a little bit more cinnamon on top. It's kind of like sprinkles for pumpkin pie. Okay, so here we go. Let's pick one I'm gonna eat right now. This one with the biggest puff of frosting. All right, here we go. I cannot wait to dig into these. Oh, I love them the same day that they're made because they're just like so buttery and soft. But these make ahead and keep really well in the fridge too, so they're an excellent make ahead dessert. Okay, but I'm just gonna dig into this right now. Just not sure how I'm gonna... It's tall, okay? Here we go. Oh. The crust is buttery and flaky. Just everything you would expect from a homemade crust. It is excellent. And I love that you don't have to pre-bake it and it still gets crisp all the way through. Oh, And then the filling. It's almost like, oh, I feel like I have frosting in my face. Do I have frosting in my face? No? Okay, good. I will later. It's almost like a souffle, the pumpkin filling. Like the best kind of pumpkin pie. You can really taste the pumpkin spice in there, the cinnamon. This is the easiest dessert for fall. Make this once and you'll make it over and over, and it's also so easy to double the recipe if you want to make it for a bigger crowd. These are fantastic. Easy enough for the weekday when you're craving pumpkin, and definitely beautiful enough for the holiday table. I hope this becomes a new favorite for you, and we'll see you in our next video. I'm gonna go eat this, maybe more than one.